Today we're going to talk about how to play Texas Hold'em, the world's most popular form of poker. This guide is brought to you by basicsofpoker.com. Let's get started. Playing with a standard deck of 52 cards, the aim of the game is to win chips from other players and in turn increase your own stack size. To do this you need the best hand, made up of 5 community cards available to all players, and 2 cards completely unique to you, known as your hole cards. Each player then creates the best 5 card combination that they can from these 7 cards. In this example, we can create a hand combination that's known as a straight. Each possible hand combination is given a rank from best to worst. The best possible hand combination in poker is a royal flush, made up of ace, king, queen, jack and 10 of the same suit. Now don't go expecting one anytime soon. The odds of getting a royal flush are 650,000 to 1. Next comes a straight flush, made up of 5 cards of the same suit in any other consecutive order. This is followed by a 4 of a kind, which is when a player has 4 cards of the same rank. It doesn't matter what the 5th and final card is here. Next up is what's known as a full house, where you have a 3 of a kind and a pair at the same time. Then comes a flush, which is when you have 5 cards of the same suit, regardless of their rank. If nobody has any of the above card combinations, the straight we made earlier would win, which is made up of 5 cards in consecutive order, regardless of their suit. Next up is 3 of a kind, where you have 3 cards of the same rank. A 2 pair is the next best ranking hand. This is made up of 2 individual pairs. This is followed by 1 pair, where you have 1 single pair amongst your 5 card combination. If no players in a game can make any of the combinations above, the hand is decided by the high card. Whoever has the highest individual rank of card wins. Here's a view of a poker table from above showing a game with 6 players. 1 player on the table is made the dealer. They're given a puck to mark their position. Play always moves in a clockwise direction from here. The player next to the dealer becomes the small blind. This player must make a forced bet in the upcoming hand before they've even seen their cards. Next to them is the big blind. Again, this player must make a forced bet. This time it's double the value of the small blind. The player after that is what's referred to as the early position, often called under the gun. Then comes the player in the middle position. And then finally the player in the late position, who will have a good overview as to how players have acted before them. Now let's walk through a hand of poker from start to finish. Step 1. Dealing. For the purpose of this walkthrough, let's make ourselves player 4. We're playing in a game with blinds of 5-10, which means that player 2, who we assign the small blind, makes a force bet of 5 chips. Player 3, the big blind, makes a force bet of 10 chips. Cards are then dealt in a clockwise direction until each player has 2 hole cards. These are dealt face down and should remain secret until the hand is concluded. Let's take a look at what cards we've been dealt. We have King 9. This is known as an offsuit hand because the suits are different. The next stage is known as the pre-flop. The player in the early position after the big blind is first to act here. In this case it's us. There are 5 different ways a player can act in poker. We can't bet here because both the small and big blinds have already contributed chips to the pot. For the same reason we can't check, which effectively means to wait and see what other players do. So we can either fold and no longer participate in the hand, raise the big blind bet, or simply make a call at the same value. Let's make the call and place our 10 chips clearly in front of us. Now it's up to the other players to act. Player 5 no longer wants to participate in the hand and folds. Player 6 calls with a 10 chip bet. Player 1 also decides to fold. Player 2, the small blind, then only has to make up the remaining 5 chips to meet the value of the big blind. All of the chips are then collected into the middle of the table in what's known as the pot. Now we're ready for the third step, the flop. The flop refers to the first 3 community cards that are dealt into the middle of the table. They're dealt at the same time, and beforehand a card is discarded, known as a burn card. From now on, the small blind is first to act. Both player 2 and player 3 have decided to check, which means they want to see what the following players do. We're going to check here too. Although we have a pair of 9s, a player could have made a higher pair. Player 6 checks too. Now all players have checked, it's on to the next step. Step 4 is what's known as the turn. This is how we refer to the 4th community card that's dealt onto the table. The turn card is a king. This is great for us as it gives us 2 pair. As in the last round of betting, both player 2 and player 3 check. We're in a strong position now though, so it would be a good idea for us to bet. Let's take a look at the current value of the pot, which is what we stand to win if we have the best hand. There's 40 chips in there, so let's place a half pot size bet of 20 chips. Placing a bet will often cause players with weaker hands to fold, as player 6 does here. Player 2 now needs to make a decision, and decides to call our bet. But player 3 decides to fold, leaving just 2 players left in the hand. This round's betting is now concluded, and as before, all chips go into the pot, the value of which is now 80 chips. Let's now move on to step 5, the river. The river card is what we refer to as the 5th and final community card dealt onto the table. It's another 9, and we've now hit a full house. This time, player 2 starts with a bet. His value is half of the pot size, at 40 chips. We've got the best hand now, beating any other player's full house or straight. As such, we decide to raise to all in, which means us betting our entire stack. Player 2 now has a difficult decision to make. Do they call our all in, or do they fold and forfeit all the chips they've bet so far? They decide to call. With the same stack size as us, they also go all in, which means one of us will be knocked out of the game. The pot now has a value of 280 chips. Now all 5 community cards have been dealt, we're on to the final step, the reveal. This is where we find out which player has achieved the highest ranking combination of cards and therefore wins the pot. Simultaneously, all remaining players turn their cards over to reveal which hole cards they hold. Player 2 has King 10 suited. Can you work out which player wins? Let's find out who has the best hand. We already know with our 3 of a kind 9s and pair of kings, we have achieved a full house. We then use the same 5 community cards, combined with player 2's hole cards, to work out what the best combination they have is. The best 2 pair they can achieve is a pair of kings and a pair of 10s. To create a 5 card combination, we then add the next best card they have. Based on the hand ranking order I introduced to you earlier, we know that full house beats 2 pair, therefore we win. We now receive the entire value of the pot from that round, 280 chips. Player 2 now has no more chips and is knocked out of the game. They may have the option to rebuy in at the original starting price depending on the tournament. The dealer position is now moved clockwise to the next available player and we're ready for another round. That's the basics of poker. We hope you found this video useful. You can find a written version of this guide with step-by-step illustrations and descriptions on our website basicsofpoker.com. You can also visit our free resources section, which has everything from a printable hand rankings document and a chart to help you play the pre-flop right. If you didn't know the meaning of a term we used in this guide, our poker glossary is a comprehensive overview of all poker terms. That's all been created for you for free at basicsofpoker.com.